Scott, which deceased author, poet, or literary scholar do you choose to co-write with and why? And which major catastrophic event in history do you wish to alter and why?
So the writer that I chose was actually a poet after much consideration, and I chose the poet William Blake. But he was a visionary when he was a child, and he would actually have visions, and they were around the angelic. And I think it really informed his poetry throughout his life. 1985, it's a famous conference called the Berlin Conference. And it was a meeting of colonial powers, 14 nations. It was all about carving up the continent of Africa for its resources. But rather than show up like full-on gangster Optimus Prime, rather an angel would show up and release like a radical impartation of mercy, so that all of these leaders would suddenly feel a debt of gratitude, of love, of mercy for their African brothers and sisters. And so my thinking was that William Blake and I would rewrite the history of that conference, and that it would have become a benevolence conference.
Every war we've had here has been because of a false flag operation.
Absolutely.
We've been lied to for years. You guys are old enough to remember this stuff, and of course, it's something I grew up with. Robert McNamara basically lied to us. There's an auto guy who's in Kennedy's cabinet in the 60s telling us there's the Red Scare in Southeast Asia, and it's a trickle-down effect, and if we don't stop communism, then they're going to take over the world. Let's be honest. That was a bunch of you-know-what.
But I came up with a really good one named James Baldwin. He really could relate, I think, to society, and really could relate to what I want to talk about, and why we can rewrite history a little bit. It was a young man in 1955, went to Money, Mississippi from Chicago. He told the lady, bye, see you, baby. The husband kind of heard him say that as he was walking out the store. Disfigured him, tied him up into stuff, and threw him into the river. And they actually, these two men got acquitted because they was white. After 60 years of this being over her head, she finally came out and said to a guy from Duke University, and she finally said, I lied on the stand. I didn't tell the truth. If the jury back then and James Baldwin would have had this rewritten in life, if those two, and he would have told the story really brilliantly, if those two people would have went to jail for life, a lot of things in this society would have changed for African Americans.
If you ask everybody, it's already known that there's a sneak attack of Pearl Harbor. Actually, I just said that in a movie and a book. It was actually Japan declared the war against the United States, and reason being, once again, what we talked about, it was about control of the oil. They could have communicated better, because not making any excuse for the Japanese side, but Japanese patterned themselves with England, small island. And why were they colonizing everybody? And nobody was saying anything. I think the horror of atomic bomb could have been avoided with better interpretation versus, translation.
A higher power is asking you to pick 2 moments from your life that you're proud of. These moments are going to appear on a projection screen like a scene in a film. There'll be a private screening, but Sonny, someone who you love dearly, that has departed this life, will be watching these 2 moments of yours. They're going to be overjoyed that you chose to share those moments with them. Which 2 moments from your life would you select? And which deceased person from your life would you share these moments with, and why? The floor is yours, good sir.
Well, I think, it's clearly for me, my mother who brought 2, I'm the oldest, and I have 2 sisters. And because of the family pressure and all that, I think she decided to immigrate into the United States. And my mother told me then, she says, look, I believe that your opportunity be so much more if you come to America. She believed in the American dream, and because that's what she wanted. She wanted the opportunity for our family, and my children all, knock on wood, graduated from college, and they all do very well, pay taxes, and they're successful.
July 3rd, 2009, a very dear, close, one of my best friends, tragically died on a tractor. Nick came to a show and I met him and I really liked him and we started hanging out, and I just ended up kind of persuading him to come to church, and he had grown up and had like a lot of us have really negative experiences with the church. It was just, I felt like I had such a great secret that I wanted to give away. And I wanted to give like an artistic expression of just the goodness of God, like in a multimedia, in front of a secular audience. So fast forwarding, Nick and I, we have such a close friendship, and, really we talked just a lot about life and God and philosophy. He was a brainiac. To this day, one of the smartest people I've ever known. 2016, after Nick's death, which was really, really tragic, I end up getting a script about the genocide in Rwanda, a movie script. And it was first timers. It was some guys out of Nashville. And I read it and I loved the heart behind it. It was a true story about a family who actually escaped the genocide. I was one of the leads. We got good reviews, and man, that would have been amazing to have Nick at the premiere of that, because we talked just passionately about, changing the world. We both wanted to do these things, just knowing that, God is real and he's personable and benevolent. The other proud moment that I would have with Nick with me watching on a screen is the next thing I know is I bring a team over to Rwanda, and we bring 12 people over, and we have duffel bags filled with prosthetic limbs that we're going to give to amputees. We had been trained how to attach prosthetic limbs to amputees. And next thing I know, I'm on a stage and I'm literally like, I'm getting to share the gospel with 8,000 Rwandans. And I just know that Nick would be so proud, going all the way back to 1995, where he saw this performance art piece, he saw my heart for it, and then, boom, I'm in a movie about it, and then I actually get to go and give the gospel and form relationships with some phenomenal leaders in Rwanda.
When I read this question, I knew exactly who I wanted to talk about and why I wanted to talk about them. My grandmother, everything that she has done helped me to become the man I am today. At a young age, she always told me to believe, to always be confident about myself. My parents got a divorce when I was in 6th grade. It was different people coming to me and telling me, hey, you got to become that young, you got to become that man now. I had a younger brother that's 7 years younger than I, You got to become that young man now. You got to become that man now. You got to take care of mom and your brother. And she always told me, she said, you know, it's going to be tough spots in your life, but you got to be strong enough to go forward, but understand how to deal with them. Every time I think about her, I see her face because she loved Johnny Carson. If she missed Johnny Carson monologue, it was a bad night for her, or a bad evening for her. It brings, you know, a tear to my eye, because I'm thinking about going to church and her holding my hand and her making me come inside there. If she didn't do that, I wouldn't know anything about church. I wouldn't know anything about God, because I dedicated my career to her, because I always wanted to appreciate her, and that's how I appreciate her.
Starting with Tim Hardaway, what do you think is more underrated and why? Of these options, the letter Z, salt bagels, or pinky toes? What is more underrated and why?
I think pinky toes are underrated. A lot of women, you know, really don't put that color on them pinky toes, you know. So I think, you know, I think that it's underrated a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just think everybody's tired of not there being enough, I don't know, authenticity. We want to know each other.
Sure.
And too often we wear masks, me included, you know, but like when we really get to know people, and, you know, because we're all just loaded for a relationship. That's what we want, you know. We want relationship.
Yeah.
We want to know people's stories, you know.
I concur.
And that's what TKN does, you know. So I love it.